So Fox News Digital reports that Target, via its nonprofit foundation, which has been directed by the retail giant's senior corporate treasurers, funded a grantee pushing to shut down and give away U.S. sovereign land such as Mount Rushmore. And the reason why, this according to Fox News Digital, is believing it to be an intentional symbol of white supremacy. This group also wants to demilitarize the violent U.S. military. And the same grantee also supports the destruction of Israel's Jewish character through what is called the Palestinian Law of Return, and implementing economic warfare tactics against the Jewish state, such as boycotts and sanctions to, quote unquote, free Palestine. That, all according to Fox News Digital. Oh, Target, it's like you don't even want to do business in the marketplace. Here's what I wonder sometimes. Sometimes I think, okay, well, these big corporations that choose to be woke are doing it not because they care the most about their consumer, not because they care the most about their business, but because they care the most about their ESG scores, and they're willing to sacrifice some profit. They're willing not to compete quite as strongly in the marketplace because they'd rather have an ESG score, and maybe they feel coerced into pursuing these ESG scores. That's possible. Certainly true of some corporations. Target seems to be taking it a step further. They seem to be voluntarily complying to the most extreme levels of, well, wokeness. So maybe it's not just forced compliance here. But sometimes I wonder if some of these companies that propagate such Marxism are actually trying to self-destruct. Because think about Marxism. We think about Marxism now in the cultural sense. We think about Marxism like critical race theory. We think about Marxism as in queer theory. We think about how these cultural neo-Marxist ideologies are targeting our civil institutions like law enforcement and our criminal justice system and the family, things that are part of not our governmental institutions, but our civil institutions. But remember, Marxism at its core is an anti-capitalist ideology. That's the original Marxists, Marx and Engels. They wanted a Marxist revolution based on economic grievances. They wanted the ruling class to be overthrown by the working class. The cultural Marxists simply took economic Marxism and adapted it to cultural issues because they realized that workers weren't actually going to revolt against the ruling class. So they adapted it, but at its core, it's still anti-capitalist. You can look at Black Lives Matter, for example. Black Lives Matter is anti-capitalist, and they admit that they're anti-capitalist. The Marxists that admit their Marxism are anti-capitalist. And I wonder sometimes if organizations, corporations like Target aren't just willing to take a small hit in the marketplace in pursuit of an ESG score, but are happy to do that. If they're intentionally running their business into the ground because they want to destroy the free market economy. They don't believe in billionaires. They don't believe in business. They don't believe in free enterprise. They don't even believe in private property. They are communists. They are Marxists. And while we focus on the cultural outgrowth, the poisonous ideology that impacts our family and our children, and we ought to focus on that, I wonder if we're missing the point that some of these companies have a death wish in the marketplace, a marketplace death wish. Because after all, they are anti-capitalist. The Satanist who designed Pride merchandise for Target is blasting Target now, criticizing Target for removing his merchandise from both the website and many of Target's stores. The designer's name is Eric Carnell. This is what Eric Carnell said. He said, "It's a very dangerous precedent to set that if people just get riled up enough about the products that you're selling, you can completely distance yourself from the LGBT community when and if it's convenient." He said, if you're going to take a stance and say that you care about the LGBT community, you need to stand by that regardless. So this is what I mean when I said before that Pride Month is here for the first time. It's so obscene. It's so egregious. It's certainly crossed a line that it's never crossed before, sexualizing our children, grooming our children, exposing our children to just pornography and pretending that if you are a parent who opposes that you are bigoted, that you are hateful, that you're transphobe, that you contribute to the suicide rate of the LGBTQIA community. This absolute gaslighting, these lies, they're really hideous lies too, because of what the accusations are. But Eric Carnell, the Satanist designer, proves again that Pride Month is not about tolerance. It's not about equality. You have to actually stock Satanist-designed merchandise aimed at children, or else you are anti-LGBTQ. I'd be interested in what the majority of gay and lesbian people in our nation think of this, because it seems to me that this is antithetical to what most people with same-sex attraction believe about equality under the law. Most people, I would venture to say, and maybe most gay and lesbian people are too afraid to speak up because they don't want to be ostracized. I don't know. But it would be interesting to hear what the majority of non-political activists, the majority of people who are gay, who are non-political activists, think about the idea that if you don't stock Satanist-designed merchandise aimed at grooming children in queer theory, that you are anti-gay. It seems to me that gay and lesbian people are actually being hijacked in pursuit of the transgender ideology, which is, of course, queer theory. But by the way, this what Eric Carnell says, that Target caved and that Target is distancing themselves from the LGBT community, isn't even true. Journalist Greg Price, obtained, and I'm going to bring this up on the screen, obtained an internal email from Target that they sent to their employees yesterday, on June 5th, that actually requests that they take part in so-called Pride Week. You can read this on the screen. Part of some of the activities that employees are encouraged to participate in are queer bingo and board games. Pride Plus Culture Club presents How to Be a Better Ally. You can attend that. And Pride Plus Pro Sports Panel. Well, so much for Target distancing themselves from the LGBTQIA agenda. They certainly are not. There's a priest by the name of Father James Martin who wrote an article answering the question, or attempting to answer the question, can Catholics celebrate Pride Month? Now, this, by the way, does not apply just to Catholics. This can be easily adapted to, can Christians celebrate Pride Month? And I want to read you just a little bit of what he writes. Let me bring this up. His title is, Can Catholics Celebrate Pride Month? And his answer is yes, and here's why. He said, can Catholics celebrate Pride Month when the LGBTQ community marks its place in society? Can Catholics celebrate the series of events that take place in June during what is now often simply called Pride? Can they do this when Pride is one of the traditional 7 deadly sins? Isn't it wrong to show pride? First, he says, it's important to remember that there are at least 2 kinds of pride. The first is the satisfaction that can come from your own accomplishments. This can turn into vanity, which is something to avoid. That brand of pride says, look at how great I am. It's the opposite of humility, a key virtue in the Christian life. Humility reminds us that we are not the center of the universe and that our lives depend on God. This is the kind of humility that Jesus speaks of in the Beatitudes when he says, blessed are the poor in spirit. So the first kind of pride can be a threat to humility, to discipleship, and to the spiritual life overall. But the second kind of pride is a consequence of one's own dignity. And that's closer to what Pride Month is meant to be for the LGBTQ community, a recognition of the human dignity of a group of people who have, for centuries, been treated with contempt, rejection, and violence. Hi guys, it's Liz Wheeler. Don't forget to watch my show, The Liz Wheeler Show, every night at 7 p.m. on the First TV. You can download the free First TV app, or you can visit thefirsttv.com/Liz and start watching today.